You all will come to know her as Rebecca. Didi and I call her our, I don't know, virtual whisperer. Just like there's a dog whisperer and then this one, she's our whisperer because she's going to be teaching us about how to uncover the techniques to sell more, book more, and inspire your audience. And there's a thing to it. But before we get into all that, let me just share a little bit about why she is qualified, to say the least, to talk to us about these things. Rebecca works with leaders who want their influence to shine in person, on screen, on the stage, and she uses confidence and team building strategies to produce media products ranging from, get this, from photos and videos to many documentaries and live streamed events. As a confidence connoisseur, am I saying that right? Connoisseur?
Yes.
Okay. She combines her speaking, facilitation, and production skills to help her clients book more business, seize more opportunities, and inspire more minds. And her biggest thrill, it comes from helping her clients look and feel and be perfect. And not in a sense of I gotta be perfect, but putting their best foot forward. Join me, Didi, join me in welcoming Rebecca.
Welcome, Rebecca. We're so excited to have you, and I cannot wait to learn all about how to be perfect, quote unquote, virtually. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Yes,
And
you're welcome. Rebecca, if there's a story that you can share with us about what led you to this is a purpose. This is a passion for you. Mm-hmm. What led you here, and who is Rebecca?
I first held a camera in my hand at the age of 8. And from that day forward, I was never without one. Now, back in those days, cameras were quite different than they are now. We didn't have cell phones. It was a little box. Actually, you didn't even hold it up to your eye. You held it down here like this. Mm-hmm. And then you had to get your film. You have to send your film off, pay for it, get it back, and look at your images. My father was a fantastic photographer, and that took skill. And that's how you learn. You make mistakes, you review, and you move on. And that's basically what we do here in this virtual world as well. We come online, we do things. If we have the courage to review them ourselves, then we learn and we improve and we move on. So there actually is no such thing as perfection, as we all know. It is just improving to the point where we are happy with what we see and hear when we're listening to ourselves, mm-hmm. and not afraid to review ourselves. Really, I think that's where a lot of people stop. I don't want to see myself. I'm horrible. I take terrible pictures. I don't look good on video. And imagine for me working with those people, because those are my clients typically, who do not like looking at themselves or listening to themselves. And I help them. This is what I feel my purpose is, my superpower is to change their own mindset about themselves. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. So that when I'm taking a portrait, and I can take a woman who's like, oh, I hate none of my pictures look good. I look horrible in pictures. And when I can put her in front of a monitor, looking at 6 different images of herself, and I say, okay, you tell me which is the best one. And she says, I don't know. They're all good. They're all good. This is the first time I've ever liked looking at myself. I mean, that to me is the greatest gift of all, that I'm invisible in the background. Mm-hmm. Everybody, they don't say, wow, who is your photographer? They just say, wow, that's a great picture. Or when I create a video for a company, they do not ask. Mm-hmm. And this is just the way it is. oh wow, who shot that video? Oh wow, who was the creative person who put that other thing in there, who coached you to the point where you just shined and looked spectacular and seemed like you have been in front of the camera your whole life? Who did that for you? No one ever asks those
Right, right,
questions.
right.
They just look at the person, and the person gets the accolades and the red carpet experience, and I'm in the background. No one sees or hears me, and that's the way I like it. I mean, obviously I like being in front of the camera, but in that position, I'm the coach behind the curtain,
Yeah,
helping my clients shine.
I love that. What do you think is the difference between a virtual image and an in-person image? Because you're live virtually, but what are some of
Yes.
the pitfalls of that?
Mhm.
Yeah, ultimately, the end result is the same. It's exactly the same, is that people get an impression of us instantly because we are judging machines. We are sizing somebody up, whether they're in this little square or whether they're standing in front of us at the front of the room or up on a stage. We are sizing them up. How did they come on stage? How do they grab the microphone? Do they know how to use it? Do they talk too loud? Do they have a squeaky voice? All, is their hair messed up? Do they look drop dead gorgeous, awesome, everything in place? We're sizing those things up. So in the virtual world, it's really exactly the same. And I think when we first started meeting from our homes, people were a lot more casual. It was the joke that I got so tired of. I'm not even wearing pants, or what? Why tell me that? Do
Mhm,
I don't need to know that.
mhm.
It's not, and it's not even, it's not funny, because if you're representing yourself as a professional, why would you ever tell somebody what you're like? It would be the same as somebody going on stage and telling you what kind of underwear they had on. That's so inappropriate, right? It's so inappropriate. And the piles of laundry and this and that. So for me, it was more helping people. We get blind to what we see around us in our home or our office. We're so used to it. And really what it takes is the willingness to take input from others.
Mhm.
And certainly my background downstairs, I have an office downstairs, and I got plenty of comments from people. One of my friends in particular, she's like, you know what, you're telling people how to look better in their backgrounds, but like look at yours. You have these big black squares on the wall. What are those? Oh yeah, those are for sound deadening. Yeah, but Rebecca, no one knows that, and they look ugly.
Mhm.
Oh, you know what? I can see why you think that way. And
Mhm.
so I had to make some changes too. And it really takes that brave person. First of all, the brave person willing to take and even ask, what do you think? And then the brave person who's maybe willing to share some information that they don't know how the other person's going to take it. It's up to them how they take it. But ultimately, if they do listen to this viewer's opinion, they can engage better with other people, because perhaps it's a distraction or an annoyance that they're completely unaware of, and it takes away from one thing, and that one thing is them being the star of their frame.
Absolutely. And speaking of brave and sharing feedback, I do hear a little bit of feedback, and we'll cut this part out, but um, um, and I don't know if it's coming from me or you, Dee, or do you hear some?
I do a little bit when you're moving quite a bit, Rebecca.
Oh, maybe it is my earrings. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm going to take them off, and then let me know if it goes away after I take them off,
Yeah.
because it
Yeah,
also could be the feedback into the speaker.
yeah, that's why. Because at first we weren't hearing the earrings before, and then I started to hear it as you got underway. But you were sharing such great knowledge that I didn't want to interrupt there.
Do you
But
still, do you hear it now? Do you hear it? Do I hear it?
No, I
I
think
bet it was,
yeah.
yeah,
you
well, it
do?
must have been the earrings. Yeah, just I guess with the
Okay,
movement, a little bit more movement. There we go. But you still look beautiful.
awesome feedback. I
Yeah.
love it. See, how else would I ever know that
Yeah,
If
because
you
you're
didn't
not hearing
stop and
it,
tell
we
me,
hear it. Yeah, absolutely.
I
Yeah,
think that you should keep this part in
let's keep
Yeah,
it
I think
in.
because that's
real life. I think it's great because then guess what? Everybody, this is a teaching moment,
this
right?
is a
Like
teaching moment.
we all need to teach what we need to learn. So here we are.
Right.
Absolutely. And there it goes.
Right.
And I think we got to be like, you gave me permission to do that. You said somebody has to be brave enough because sometimes we won't
Yes.
say it because we don't want to offend the person. But
Yes.
that's part of helping that person show up, right?
That's right.
As part
Yeah.
of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the hardest, not hardest, but I've made a lot of these calls mostly to women
Mhm.
who I see that I know absolutely that they are not aware of. I had one situation where a woman was using a virtual background, the same color as the retina of her eyes. And so what was happening is that bright blue of the background was shooting through her eyes and it made her look like a zombie or exorcist, that some spirit had taken over her body. It looked horrific. And she's a woman of high stature. She was giving a keynote address to a rather large audience online. No one had the guts to tell her. So she would go to the next and the next and the next meeting doing that.
Yeah.
But I tracked her down, found out who, does anybody know all these people who might know her? Do you have her phone number? Do you have her phone number? I'm not going to send an email. Hi, it's Rebecca Murray, Skagit Media Marketing. I just saw you're fantastic. Blah, 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 blah. And then there's this little awkward segue, right? I don't know if you're aware, but that kind of thing. And I'd like to help you. I want to help you figure this out, just like what we did with the earrings, so that next time you show up, she says, what's funny? Somebody was joking around and they said I look like the exorcist. Now she didn't, and that conversation stopped right there. She didn't ask, like, what an awkward thing to say. Why would you say that? And the person didn't go any further, like your eyes. There was something weird going on with your eyes. But really supporting each other. It is awkward there are some people who would never, ever make that call, and that's fine. But for those of us who are willing to do that for another person, I liken it to, let's say I'm walking on a live stage and I'm having a wardrobe malfunction that I'm completely unaware of. I would rather that somebody walk on the stage, come up to me, and I'm like, why are you here? Why are you here? Whisper in my ear, oh, I'll be right back. Go off stage, fix it up, come back, and then make a joke of it.
Absolutely.
Obviously,
yeah.
Everybody else was aware of it, right? So let's talk about the elephant in the room. I would rather have that than get off the stage and somebody's like, I just want to tell you your zipper was down the entire time.
Right.
Thanks for supporting me, right?
Yes.
100%. And this really reminds me, I know we just had a previous conversation about yoga and things like that. This reminds me of in the yoga space of where we were learning how to teach. It's really interesting. We had a feedback culture where we get feedback constantly, which is very completely different than real life, right? And what we're talking about is providing feedback. And there's an actual structure and way to provide constructive feedback, like loving feedback. And what I learned through that process was interesting. It's not hard. It's definitely hard to provide feedback, especially constructive feedback, but it's actually more challenging. It's not as challenging to receive the feedback. It's actually more challenging to provide the feedback in some cases. And oftentimes it's actually harder to provide it than to receive it.
Yes. Oh, I totally agree. And the longer you wait until you give that feedback, the harder it gets.
Yes.
The harder it gets to give and to receive. I was a dog trainer for 12 years. And as a dog trainer, the best type of training, I know that LY has dogs.
I did too. I did.
Okay. So that feedback in the moment of the behavior is the absolute best. It's positive or neutral. And that's how the dog understands what's what we're trying to do in terms of shaping their behavior. Sometimes it's impossible to give that feedback in the moment for a person. Like if I'm coaching behind the camera, then yeah, it's going to be, I'm going to cut, we're going to try something else, we're going to call action again and move forward. And so it is more in the moment. And that person gets used to it too. Like, just tell me what to do. Okay, great, great, great. You know, and that they know that everything I give is going to help them look better, sound better, all of that. It's so different in this case because we can't most of the time just interrupt somebody. We do have to wait until after. And then how long after, and what's the, you know, the phone calls is going to be, hey, I need to give you some feedback on your, you know, it's, we have to start with that sort of soft opening, engage, and then find a way to bravely transition to the real reason why we're calling.
Absolutely. So let's dive into, you know, what are some, I want to kind of unpack the techniques, and the theme of this is to help people sell more, book more, and inspire your audience. So let's start first with the aesthetics. What are some things that, especially in this virtual reality world that we're all living in right now, some basic changes that people can make in order to show up and look better? Like when I first got on, I'm constantly trying to work the light and all this. This weekend, I changed my room around to face the sunlight, and, you know, and I'm struggling with that. So what are some basic concepts that people can embrace to just show up looking better on camera?
Yes. Well, the first thing that I always start with is framing. I get my framing in first. And if you go on to a film set, you'll always see the director, you know, kind of looking like this through their fingers. This simulates the back of a camera. This simulates like a video frame or a movie frame. And the only thing that matters is what is in the frame. Now, of course, we should be the star of our frame. So we make a decision about what we want in our frame and what we don't want in our frame. So we are intentional about what is in our frame, making ourselves the star. So that goes back to looking around, looking behind us, maybe just taking your camera or your laptop and pivoting a little bit. Sometimes that's all that makes the difference, pivoting 25 degrees even, so that we frame out something that could be a distraction or an annoyance and allow the viewer something prettier or less distracting to look at. So framing number one, and where we sit in the frame. So sometimes I'm off center because I have something here that I want to show, but usually I'm paying a lot of attention to how much headroom I have and how far away I am from the camera, just trying to make sure that there's not too much headroom. Headroom is the difference between, or the measurement between, your head and the top of the frame. So right about there. If I'm standing up, maybe I'll allow a little more headroom. If I'm closer in, maybe I can allow even a little bit less headroom. But that's one thing, so that we are balanced in our frame. Then secondly is light. And just like what you said, you're in front of a window, nice soft light. If you have a north or south facing window, those are great because the light doesn't change as drastically throughout the day. It's more consistent, which means it's easier, that you're not going to have to be pulling curtains across when the light, too much light shines in. So there's four things about light. It's the amount of light. We've all seen the people with way too much light on their face, and basically their face goes away. You know, it turns into these horrible white splotches, just looks so unflattering. And it's confusing to me why, if I can see it, why that person can't see it. I don't get that sometimes. I'm just stunned at what I see. And I'm like, you're looking at your monitor, don't you see this? You know. So the amount of light, not too much. It's sort of like a Three Bears thing, not too much, not too little. We want nice soft light coming onto us, especially women over the age of 30. Now I have a little bit of shadow here, which I kind of like. So, and I can control that with my lights, but downstairs I have much less control. I just have a window and I have a sheer curtain. So I have pretty much nice soft light all day, some diffusion on the light that comes in. So it's the amount of light, whether it's soft or hard. We don't want things coming from the side. We want them coming from the front, nice and softly. The color of light is a big thing. For most of us, the cameras that we are using, I call them P-brain cameras because the processor inside, you can imagine, right? It's not like a camera. It's either a webcam or a built-in cam, and the processor that has to think about light and focus and framing is about this big. It's a P-brain. And so you have, it's running on automatic. There's no control. So let's say you have blue light coming in from the window, the outside light from the sun. That's blue. It has a blue cast to it. Our eyes don't pick it up, but our camera sees it. And then we have an incandescent lamp next to us, let's say, that's yellow. And this poor little camera here, and both of these lights are shining on us. This poor little camera is trying to figure out which way to go. It's just going to average, and you may end up looking purple or green. And I have seen both of these. I don't know if you have, but it is not a good look for anybody unless you're out to imitate an Oompa Loompa. Not a good look. So it's the amount of light, direction of light, quality of light, which is the softness, and the color of light. So the rule then is just make sure that all the light falling on you is the same color. So this little lamp that had a yellowish type of bulb in it, now I'm going to change that out to a white or bluish type of bulb. And now that's going to match the light coming in from the window. And the camera's going to go, oh, thank you. I know what to do. And we're going to look, we're not going to, our skin tone's going to look normal, which is a good thing if we're a human.
Can I show you something like, okay, what is this thing? Like when I move my hand over here, I get lighter. Let me see. See how it got dark?
Yeah.
See,
oh,
I just talked the whole time like this.
Well, that's very interesting.
I don't.
So you must. Oh, you know what? It might be is because what kind of a camera is it? Just built in webcam or
the webcam of my computer.
Oh, okay. So it does.
See how dark it got? Now it's light.
Yeah, it's another automatic thing that cameras do. So the camera is on an automatic level, is trying to average the amount of whiteness and darkness in your frame, okay? So if it sees something darker coming in, then it's going to compensate by making more lighter.
Okay.
It's just averaging all these pixels together and like, oh, it's darker, so I need to make more light. So it just automatically goes lighter. It's called the ISO or ISO. You'll see that setting on like a real camera that you can actually, change it and set it so that it doesn't change.
Yeah, and I see that not only in my frame sometimes, but I see it in other people's frames. What is that? What is causing that, right?
Yes.
That's good. You just gave us a tip there. Is there an ISO in your computer webcam?
No.
No.
Well, if you got a Logitech Brio has software that you can download, and that software allows you to have some manual control. So if you spent, I forget how much those are, $280, something like that, for a Brio, you would have some manual control.
Okay. Now, what colors should you not wear on camera in a virtual Zoom or webinar or whatever?
Yes, great question. In fact, like I would never ever wear this dress down in my office. It would look horrible because it's too busy. First of all, it looks great against just a solid backdrop. So that's one thing. If your backdrop is busy, then wear solids. So I will always wear solids downstairs, almost always. But up here, I have a lot more latitude, except I would never wear dark blue or black because I would melt in and you just see a floating, head with blonde hair. Okay, white hair. Downstairs, yeah, this would contrast. So think of your backdrop as part of your wardrobe, really. You want it to complement like what you do, LY, today. That's perfect. It's the blue and the pink and it goes lovely. and Dee Dee, you have I mean, you just, with the dark and your hair, you pop out of your frame. It's very pretty. The only suggestion that I would have for you is to lower your camera just a wee bit to not have as much headroom so we can see, and this would be for Dee Dee, not for LY.
Okay.
LY, yours is good. So that we can just see more of you here. And I would even go a little bit lower so we might even be able to see the top of your camisole.
And I guess with women, so we don't look like we just have all breasts up here.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like I have, I'll just share because we're all women here. I have very small breasts. Okay. And so I have to be really concerned about what I wear, that it's not too low, because it will look like I'm
Not wearing
like,
anything.
where is the bottom?
Where's the bottom
You
of right?
If I had more here, it would, you know, you know what I'm saying? I realized this at a young age. So most of my wardrobe, this is what I look for when I buy things, this kind of boat neck cut, so that there's no question.
I was doing a conference this morning where I was giving a talk, but then we were doing breakout sessions, and we would come back into the bigger group, and then we would talk and we'd go around and ask their feedback. And there is one woman, what is the thing when you could only see their head? You know,
Isn't
like,
that just, I know, I
how
don't
can
get
we
it.
fix that? Because a lot of people don't know that all we're seeing is this.
How
And
can
a lot
you
of
do that, like this?
Yes, like that. Yes. They're either too close to their lens, or they might be using a phone and they're holding it this way versus this way.
Yeah.
And just to back up from in my training, I remember going to a meeting once, and I'm looking at the gallery view, and everybody pretty much looks normal in their frame except for this one woman. It's all face, you know, all face in her frame. And finally, and it made me laugh. It was very funny. I mean, in the moment, it just looked so funny because she goes, "Does anybody think my face is too big?" I'm nodding my head vigorously. Yes. And everybody's like, "No, you look fine. You look fine." But see, that's the thing, is that we see this, and these are people mostly we don't know. And you know, it'd be very awkward. Like you would never share that in a chat. Hey, your face is too big, you know, FYI.
Absolutely. Yes. And a lot of these things we're talking about, Rebecca, like, you know, we wanted to really get into techniques to sell more, book more, inspire your audience. I know we're having a little moment of fun and things like that, but these are the kinds of things that really translates into, right? There's no science behind it. It's just little adjustments that you can make to make you show up better.
Yes.
That transfer or translate into more sales or more booking, more or your audience, right?
That's right. The voice, the audio is one of the biggest. So we cover the frame, we cover light, and then sound, which is so very important. Camera, I talk about that a little bit, because the cameras, even in this is a brand new MacBook Pro that I have. I'm not using this camera. And in fact, I'll just switch to this camera really fast, and you can see the difference I'm using a real camera up here, but let me switch to this. Didn't switch to it, did it? You know, it's not going to cooperate today. That's very interesting. Okay, well, if it decides to do it, it will. But I will just tell you that how I look using my MacBook Pro is not good. And so what I did is I bought for downstairs, a little $89. They've come down in price now, but in when we were all scrambling for things to go online, they were hard to get. So you just paid whatever they were asking, right? I look so much better using that webcam than here. So camera, you know, you spend a little money, you can look better because you have now a camera that's going to have more going on inside to figure out lighting and focus and all of these sorts of things.
Is that the camera that you attach to your laptop or desktop that sits on above it, on it. clips on it,
Downstairs, that's what I use. Yes.
And that's
Mhm.
called a webcam.
A webcam. Mhm.
Okay, and you can get
Mhm.
that as cheap as $89.
Oh, even less, even less. You can get webcams. Now you really have to test it out. So this is a thing. I tested out a bunch of them. I bought several of them, not knowing which one I would actually get back in, back in last March and April, thinking that the one that was built into this brand new $3,000 computer would be awesome. It wasn't. So I'm testing out these different cameras. 2 of them I sent back, 1 of them I kept. So you just, it's you plug it in, you test it, you decide, do you look better or worse? Does it
Yeah.
help or does it hurt? That sort of thing. But yeah, you can get them for $40.
Wow.
A decent one, actually, a decent one. And yours, both of you look great, actually. Both of you look, whatever cameras you're using, I would just continue.
Yeah, this is an old laptop. I'm actually going to be going out next weekend to buy a new laptop.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, it's decent. It really is.
No, mine is it's just a MacBook Air, actually.
A MacBook Air. So is it fairly new, a newer MacBook Air?
Yes, it's the newest model.
Oh, okay. And you have great light too. That's the thing. That's where the rubber really meets the road with these either webcam or built in, is when the light isn't good.
Yeah.
Then you really start to see it struggles, it really struggles.
Like mine, struggling back and forth. I got to go like
yes.
this. We're just going to do the rest of this interview. So now, can you tell us finally, how can one inspire your audience?
You look great the other way too.
Good with the light right now.
Oh my God, that's funny. Well, I do want to talk about audio because really it is one of the most important things. You think about YouTube is more video centric, but podcasts, radio is all audio centric. Our brains are audio centric as well. Experts, this is an old study done in a movie theater where they took the same film. One of them, the visuals, pristine, amazing, fabulous, but the audio, they purposely played with it to degrade it. And then they took the same movie, they degraded the video, and the audio was pristine. So they had these audiences go watch both movies, come out, and they would poll them across the board, 100%. The ones with the great video said, fantastic movie. They didn't even notice any of the visual idiosyncrasies. They were just swept away. And the ones with the bad audio, but the beautiful video, they picked apart the movie, picked it apart. So this is our brain from babies. We're in our mother's womb, right? And we are listening. We're listening. So our brains are wired for sound. When we come across, I don't know about you, but I will not engage with a video that has bad sound. There's no way I will torture myself.
It's really distracting too.
Oh,
you can't really stay in tune to it because it's distracting.
Yes. So you think about how many podcasts and YouTube videos have been created, millions and millions and millions, especially in the last year. Many of them, and Zoom has issues of its own. If you're not using something to improve your audio quality, who wants to listen to that? I don't know. So people put a lot of work and effort into all these things, but if they're not paying attention to audio, they're completely missing the mark.
So should you or should you not wear a bud or earplug or whatever? Because the buds that I have that I try to use with my laptop actually makes me sound more muffled and
yeah,
whatever. I think my sound is better without it.
Yes.
What's the rule of thumb?
Yeah. Well, the rule of thumb is if you don't have well, to get feedback, and you've listened to yourself. So if you're in a room that's what I call reflective, if you have hard surfaces, and and you don't have the money to buy a microphone, a decent microphone, then you bring in pillows and blankets and things. I've even had speakers pile up pillows on either side of their laptop and make sort of like a little sound booth for themselves. And that in and of itself can make an amazing difference, because with the voice in any room are these voice waves, these waves coming out of our mouth are bouncing around things, and then they're coming back into the microphone, and that's what causes that icky, echoey sound. So the more that we can dampen that opportunity for that bounce back, the better we are going to sound to our audience. Ultimately, the closer you can have a microphone to your mouth is going to help prevent some of that as well. Not completely. You still have to pay attention to your surroundings a little bit. This particular microphone is there's different what's called pickup patterns for every microphone. So the most common is an omni pickup pattern, which means it's going to be picking up reflections and sound from all around. So if I had somebody flushing the toilet back behind me, you'd probably hear it, all the way to what's called a hypercardioid, which basically the pickup pattern is right here by my mouth. It's just right here.
And
so
isn't that the type of microphone that like you see an entertainer? Like I remember I used to love to watch like Janet Jackson's live concerts or whatever, because she had one of those little mics and she'd be doing all the different dances and everything. I'm like, how does that thing stand on her, and how does her voice continue to be perfect coming through that? Not hearing that, the distractions.
Right. So it's canceling out. You don't hear the things all around the music and everything. You just hear her, right? And that's that pickup pattern that really helps. Yeah.
And are those affordable? Those type of
this goes over each ear right here. So it's very secure. And then this is the transmitter, has a little belt clip thing. So you need to clip it here, clip it on the back of your dress, something like that. But you can also get headsets that plug right into your computer that are a lot less expensive, that do this same thing, like USB or USB-C. You can, for, I don't know, $130, Sennheiser makes them.
Is if you're going to be moving around and if you need to be stationary, then the plug and play is fine. But if you be on moving around,
right?
Yes,
or you can get a long cord.
A very long cord,
yes. So there's advantages and disadvantages. Like these, you have to make sure the battery, make sure it's turned on, make sure it's synced up. The ones that are plug and play, where you can plug it into your computer and have a long cord and back around, then it's just running off the computer and you have a lot less to worry about.
Okay.
Ultimately. Yeah.
Well, today has been, and I know we talked a lot of tech on this.
Tech talk.
Tech talk. Instead of TED Talk, we did tech talk. But it's worth it, because we know that we are in a time of virtual reality. I personally believe that post-COVID, this is going to be part of our new normal. I think industry, etc., is learning that you can reach more people virtually than you can brick and mortar, right? In every aspect of our work, our business, our lives, our personal lives. So with that said, I think this time that we spent together, I mean, just real quickly, Rebecca, name the 3 or 4 things that you just highlighted around from the framing to the light, the webcam, etc., that to help people realize what are the essentials they need to look good in order to sell more, book more, and inspire your audience.
Find a partner, someone you trust, someone you feel comfortable with, and ask them for feedback on the following. Ask them to take a look at your frame from an audience perspective. Is there anything distracting, or is there anything that you could pull in that would accentuate, say, branding, or whatever color, the right color that maybe matches your brand. So get feedback on that. Lighting, get feedback on your lighting. 4 things about lighting. the quality, the quantity, the direction, and the color, those 4 things. Then the camera that you're using, it could spending another $50 improve how you look because your camera maybe is struggling for light. And no matter how much light you give it, you still look dark or pixelated or fuzzy or whatever that is. So take care of that. And then lastly, audio. Can you do something in your studio, in your area, to decrease the amount of bounce back or reflections or echo? And could you, by spending a little bit of money, improve it to the quality that people just go, lean in and want to hear more?
I love that, Rebecca. This is probably going to be one of those sessions that everybody tuning into this is going to be able to really leverage. Thank you so much for being with us today.
You're welcome.
Dee and I both love you and is so appreciative of you. And we cannot wait to get our framing, lighting, quality, camera, and audio in check. I want to come talk to you when I go out and buy my new computer and my webcam.
You bet.
That's going to be so helpful. So thank you. And how can people get more of Rebecca? Can you tell us about if there's someone out there that want to hire you for your services or the work that you do in terms of inspiring, empowering, etc.?
Yes. So I have a studio consultation, also production consultation, since I can't be everywhere at once. So I love empowering people to create their own repeatable, virtual, sensational video products or audio products as a consultant. You can find out more at Rebecca at showcaseyourshine.com or just go to showcaseyourshine.com. Also, for listeners today, I will have a tip sheet on how to master your virtual image that goes over all of the things that we discussed today in our session. And thank you so much for inviting me today. It's been a pleasure with both of you.
Likewise. Thank you, Rebecca.